We live in an age of extreme globalization. Homogenizing forces are at stake, lead in many different ways to extinction. But we also live in an age where the counter-reaction, and Glissant anticipated that very early on, already in the 60s, he saw it come that actually the counter-reaction to this extreme form of globalization might be as dangerous and as destructive and would lead to new forms of isolationism. It would lead to new forms of isolationism. It would lead to new forms of lack of tolerance, to new forms of racism. And in a way, of course, this needs to be vehemently resisted. So he said, we have to resist the homogenized form of globalization. We have to resist this isolationist, nationalist, counter-reaction to globalization. We have to kind of find something which he called mondialité. And there isn't really a word in English for that. Mondialité, it would be maybe something like mondiality. It's a kind of a global dialogue which is respectful of local differences, a global dialogue which is also willing to listen, which embraces, of course, the potential we have today with technology, in this global world to talk to each other. And Glissant says, that's so important because he says the archipelago is the model. And I think that's an interesting thing also in terms of, democracy, because Glissant said that continents are often, homogenizing, whilst the archipelago, and he came from Martinique, so of course he thought not only of it in terms of a metaphor, but also very real in terms of the islands, surrounding Martinique. And he said it's in this exchange with these other islands that the identity becomes richer. It's the creolization of language, and it's not because he has an exchange with all these other islands that his identity dilutes or disappears. And I think that as a message, for all kinds of processes of society today is so important. Mondialité as a kind of a toolbox.